Time of reflection, prayer, and moments from yesterday's service.
Today is Mothering Sunday, and there can't be a mother in the land who didn't receive her card, flower, and embrace without aching for the mothers of Dunblane whose arms are empty. But it's not just mothers, it's fathers, it's everyone. If ever the people of a nation can be said to have shared each other's pain, felt it like a big knot in the pit of the stomach that won't go away, it's surely now. Today, they came to their ancient cathedral to look for solace, and we've come to share that too. Every Sunday for over 800 years people have been worshipping at Dunblane Cathedral, but never perhaps with such aching hearts. We've come not to pry, not to stare, not to intrude more than we can possibly help it, but with the blessing of the minister, the Reverend Colin McIntosh, to enable us all to share their reflections and maybe find some solace too. Duncan Strathdeigh has lived all his life in Dunblane. Like most people here, he has neighbours and friends who have lost their children.
Because you live with these people and you've seen them on a daily basis, it just touches your heart. You just can't get away from the fact that you want to be able to surround them with love.
Duncan, how does your faith deal with the horror that went on here on Wednesday?
I think I've got the same question as everybody else has had, and that is, why did God allow this to happen? And I think, like everybody else, I struggle with that. But when Ron Taylor, the head teacher, made the comment that he made, and he said that evil had visited his school, I believe that's true. I believe that, evil visited on that day. We've seen what evil can do. I would say now we can see what God can do, in that God is a God of love, and the expression of love that people have shown within the community in wanting to reach out to the families.
And a lot of that support, it seems to me, being here, has been completely unspoken.
Yeah. People their eyes would meet, and although you maybe didn't know that person, there was just that mutual understanding and empathy that I know what you're going through, and I'm going through the same.
You say God wasn't there. Shouldn't he have been? Couldn't he have stayed Thomas Hamilton's hand?
We all have choices on a daily basis to do good or evil, and by an act of his own will, Tommy Hamilton has done what he has done. But God is here, and we can make choices now. We can make choices to allow God to come and minister to us.
And that's the hope for the future.
I believe God is saying, I am here just now, and I will be here when all the media have gone and all the interest from people outside of this community, they've gone on to something else. God will still be there, and God will still be available, and he'll still be enfolding people in love. He'll still be supporting them, and he'll still be comforting them.
My shepherd, I not want. He makes me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me the quiet waters by. My soul he doth restore again, and me to walk dark make. Within the paths of righteousness, in for his own name's sake. Yea, though I walk through death's dark vale, yet will I fear none ill. For thou art with me, and thy rod and staff me comforts me. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in God's house forevermore my dwelling place shall be.
Brian and Katie Owen live in Dunblane. Their 4-year-old son Stuart was at the primary school on Wednesday morning. Brian, a member of staff at Scottish Church's house, joined the parents waiting at the school gate. Katie, a chaplain at Stirling Royal Infirmary, joined colleagues in the casualty unit. Their son was unharmed, but they have to handle their feelings both as parents and as ministers.
Somehow this is not a time for words. Our minds can't take in the words. It's the human comfort that we can give each other that seems to have been what's most necessary.
Being in the places where people hurt most is the only place to be, and you're not offering anything other than basic human qualities of love. And I have to say that in the town there has been a tremendous spirit of love, and I think a spirit of, I would say, gentleness and kindness and goodness, because people are just reaching out to one another. So that's undergirded everything that I've done. I felt really and truly held together by the love of other folk. And it's come through cards and it's come in practical ways. But I think you would find the folk in the town would say that it's there. And you know that it's there. And because it's there, you can function.
I've been holding on to Psalm 139 these last few days. And in that psalm at the end, there are angry words that the psalmist himself says to God. And so what that psalm has said to me is that it's all right to be angry. I'm angry for all the people in Dunblane who suffered. I'm angry that this should have happened, this violation of the sanctity of a school. I'm angry that we've been raped as a community. I'm angry about all of that. But the psalmist was angry. And it's all right.
O Lord, you have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. If only you would slay the wicked, O God. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
We're in a Good Friday experience at the moment, an experience of bereavement. In our own family life, we've been in that situation before, and we know that we have come out into resurrection. And because it's happened before, because God has been with us before through dark moments and brought us through, we trust that God will be with us in these dark moments and will bring us through.
It's one thing to know the theory of resurrection, and quite another to live through it. And it's not just the people in Dunblane who are doing that. There are people each and every day who have to live through what we call the dark moments, and then eventually feel the light coming again. And that's a universal experience, and something that's very real and has to be lived through to be understood.
On Friday evening, 5,000 people queued to join a vigil in the cathedral, reaching out in grief and confusion, and maybe seeking for comfort and an answer to the question, why? It's a question asked of all the ministers in the community, and one they've asked themselves.
I've got to say that I can't give an answer to that question. I don't think any man, woman on this earth can give an answer to that question. It's a question that will always be there. But for my own help, as I've tried to help others through these tragic events, I've gone to the cross, to Golgotha, because on the cross, Jesus himself asked the same question. Why? This desperate sense of desolation, of loneliness, of feeling emotionally, spiritually crippled. And does anybody understand? Does anybody care? When we go to the cross, we see that Jesus himself, that was his experience. And so when I have asked this question, and when others have asked, and when they'll continue to ask, that is where I would direct them.
Will Dunblane ever recover from this, do you think?
Time heals, and I believe that the healing process is already beginning to take place. And yet, at the same time, although time heals, scars will remain. For some, it may be quicker than for others. When folks mention the name Dunblane, from now on, Dunblane will always be associated with this terrible tragedy. But for those who bear scars, physical, emotional scars, mental scars from this terrible incident, there is one who himself still has scars and is well able to help.
Finding a way to live with their tragedy is going to be a long process for the people of Dunblane, but this morning's service in the cathedral was a first step. The minister, the Reverend Colin McIntosh, has spent the last few days trying to comfort the people who've been pouring into the cathedral all week. Often just an arm round the shoulders was enough. But now he had to find something that's posed a challenge to everyone this week. Words. Words not just for his grieving congregation, but for the whole nation.
God knows what we need today is not an explanation, but a faith. There are some things that can be said, and at least one thing that must never be said. What was said to me on Thursday, among the thousands of messages that have poured in from all over the world, almost all of them so loving and so sensitive. But one distraught woman said, "I just don't understand the will of God." And I felt my anger rise. I think I needed to be angry, and she needed to learn a thing. And before I knew it, I was saying, do you really think it was the will of God that a man's mind should be so terribly deranged? Was it the will of God that carefully planned the sequence of events leading up to last Wednesday? The will of God that children should die? Nothing angers me so much as our failure sometimes to get it through our heads that God doesn't go around this world with his finger on a trigger. The one thing that should never be said at a time like this, and I hope it never will be said to our grieving parents, is that it was the will of God. Never do we know enough to say that. Our only comfort today lies in knowing that it was not the will of God that our children should die. That in those fatal, frightening moments in the school gymnasium, God's heart was the first of all our hearts to break. And that is what the Christian faith says. In the worst that life can do, in the darkest moment that no living soul should ever be asked to endure, God is not somehow absent, to be found turning his head the other way. The Christian story is the story of a God who is continually to be found where we do not expect him, in the midst of the suffering, in the midst of the tragedy and the despair. And all we can do today is tell that story and keep on telling it until its truth eventually pierces the walls of our grief and its promise calms our troubled souls and its hope gives us courage to believe that our joy will return.
Lord, may none of us retreat into our own private world of grief. May we not seek a place of safety or shelter to insulate ourselves from the threat of pain, to protect ourselves from the crying of the lost. On this Sunday in Lent, on this day called Mother's Day, we think of the mother who travelled to Bethlehem, the mother who cradled and suckled the Son of God, the mother who journeyed to the city of Jerusalem and kept watch as the world crucified her first child. Father, may the world look upon us with continuing care and all its expressions of sympathy, but also listen to the cry of Christ for all children. But on this morning, Lord, we make a special prayer for our own children, saddened, bewildered. Lord, we pray for our children who are now at rest in Thee.
Victoria Clydesdale, Emma Crozier, Melissa Curry, Charlotte Dunn, Kevin Hazel, Ross Irvin, David Kerr, Vary Macbeth, Brent McKinnon, Abigail McLennan, Emily Morton, Sophie North, John Petrie, Joanna Ross, Hannah Scott, Megan Turner, and their teacher, Mrs. Gwen Mayer.